Hello everyone, my name is Eduardo. Today I'm going to go ahead and go over how to set up Active Directory on a Windows server, and we're going to go ahead and use it as a domain controller, and we're going to connect to it using the client Windows 10 device. Let me go ahead and pull this up. This is going to be the diagram that we're going to be following. So we're going to start with our Windows Server 19 here, and we're going to set it up with two network interface cards, one internet facing and one internal that we're going to create our own IP address as 172.16.0.1. We're going to do our mask address as this. We're going to leave our gateway as empty, and our DNS, we will have it set to this. This basically just loops back to itself. It'll read back to the original IP address. And within our domain controller Windows server, we're going to go ahead and set up our domain as mydomain.com, and we're going to use Active Directory. And then afterward, we're going to go ahead and create our remote access server and our NAT. And then we are also going to be using DHCP, and we're going to create a scope within our DHCP. Our ranges are going to be 172.16.0, 100 through 200, with our mask as the same as this. And our gateway is going to be set to this, and our DNS is going to be set to this, 172.16.01. And we're going to be virtualizing the server using server 19, and we're also going to virtualize our client device using Windows 10. So we're going to create our virtual machine on Windows 10, and we're going to connect the network interface card as internal. So it's going to be reading here, and we're going to be creating over 1,000 Active Directory accounts that our Windows client can log into using those specific login credentials. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. We're going to start by downloading VirtualBox. You can download the Windows or OS X for Mac, or even Linux if you'd like. Mind you, I don't believe there's good support for the M1 Mac right now on the software. After downloading and installing that, you're going to want to go ahead and download the extension pack. So once you've got those two installed, next up, you're going to want to download Windows 10 Enterprise. You're going to want to get the ISO for that. After you've gotten that, you're going to want to get the ISO for Windows Server 19. Next up, we're going to go ahead and launch our VirtualBox, and we're going to go ahead and create a new one. We're going to name it DC for Domain Controller. And for the version, we're actually going to choose Windows Other 64 bits, and the location is fine. We're going to hit next. We're actually going to change this to 2048 for 2 gigs of RAM. Oops. 2048. Next. Okay, that's fine. Great. That's good. Fix size. That's good. Very good. So next up, we are going to go into the settings. This new virtual machine, and then we're going to go into advanced shared clipboard. We're going to do bi-directional. Okay, and then next up, we are going to go into our system, and we are going to do processor, and we're going to actually change this to 2. If you can handle more, feel free. I think I'm just going to stick with 2 today. Okay, and then we're going to go into network. Adapter 1 NAT is fine. We're going to enable a second adapter, and we're going to do it internal network, and that's fine. Okay, we're going to hit all right, and then we're going to go ahead and hit start. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and locate our ISO. I went ahead and put it on my desktop for easy access, and we're looking for the server version. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and hit choose, hit start. It's going to go ahead and launch the Windows installation menu. It's going to want to reboot multiple times after you go through the initial installation process. It might tell you to press any key to continue. Don't do that. Just leave it as is, let it boot multiple times, and eventually you'll get to the desktop. We'll go ahead and go through it together. I might skip through while this thing loads. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and hit next here. We're gonna hit install now. And then we're gonna wanna select one of the desktop experiences. So we're gonna hit the standard one. We're gonna hit next. We're gonna accept these terms and we're gonna do a custom install and we're gonna choose our allocated space that we had set up earlier. We're gonna hit next and we're just gonna let it go. It's gonna take a little time. Like I said, it might reboot several times. So then we're greeted with this administrator. So we're gonna go ahead and create a password that we can remember easily. Something that, you know, be easy to type in. We're gonna type it a bunch of times here. Okay, so go ahead and hit escape. We can try hitting Control Delete, but it doesn't do it. It actually brings up my own. So if we go to input here, go to keyboard, and then it's gonna be Control Delete. It's host delete. Not sure which one that would be. I can try this. No, I'm just gonna go ahead and hit the button then. Keyboard, we'll do Control Delete. Just open this up. We're gonna type in the password that we created just now. Go ahead and let this thing load up. So we're greeted with the desktop here. So first and foremost, we're actually, because you see how it's a little slow, and we're gonna try to improve the performance. So we're gonna go to devices. We're gonna go to insert guest. They call that here, insert guest additional CD images. And then we're gonna go launch it through the recycle bin here. Okay, it's loading up. We're gonna go to this PC and we should see this right here. So we're gonna go ahead and launch this program. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and open it. Oh, we're gonna select yes for network. So we went ahead and selected this guy here. We selected VBox Windows Edition. Okay. We're gonna go ahead and hit next and just hit next all the way through. That's all fine. We're actually gonna select, I wanna reboot later. We're gonna hit finish. We're actually gonna do a shutdown. So we're gonna go to power here. Let's do a shutdown. Okay, continue. We're gonna let this thing shut all the way down. Okay. We're gonna go back into our VirtualBox here, and we're gonna start our server again, Windows Server. Okay. All right. So same deal again. We're gonna go ahead and just do input, keyboard, Control Delete. Type in our password that we created earlier. So hopefully, okay. So the mouse is working quite a bit better. We should be able to resize it. Might take a second for it to load the program here. Okay, so it finished loading. So now we should be able to resize it. Let's see. She wants to play nice, I guess. Goes up to a certain point, which is fine. Okay, so we're gonna just minimize this here for now. We're gonna go over here to our network. We're gonna go open network and internet settings. Okay, so we're actually gonna go into we're gonna go to Ethernet and then change adapter options. Okay, and we need to find out which is our internet facing one and which is our internal one. So we're gonna go over to status and then we're gonna go to details. And so this is going to be our internal one. So this is one that was provided by my router. And if we look at the other one, we're going to go to status, details. See, this one looks odd. This one was not provided by my router. So we're going to go ahead and hit close. We are going to rename this one. We're going to name it internet. And this one we are going to rename internal. Okay. Good. And so we're going to actually modify this one. We're going to go ahead and go to properties. Okay. And we are going to change the IP for IPv4. And we're going to use the following IP address. So we're going to go ahead and select 172.16.0.1. Okay. For the submit, we're going to go ahead and just allow it to, we're actually going to modify this section right here. We're going to do 255 and 0 for the last one. The default gateway, we don't need to set one. And the DNS server, it's actually going to be itself. So we could do 16.0.1, or alternatively, we can go ahead and do 127.0.0.1, which will allow it to feed back to itself. So we're actually going to just select that 0.0.1. 127.0.0.1, so it'll ping back to itself. We're going to go ahead and just hit OK. We're going to hit OK. We're going to go ahead and go back to our settings. We're going to go ahead and select about. We're going to rename this PC something more applicable. So we're going to rename it. It's got this weird name. We're just going to name it DC for domain controller. Hit next. Okay, and we'll go ahead and restart it now. Okay, so we're back. Go ahead and sign in again. We've essentially configured our two network interface cards. Next, we're going to go ahead and install Active Directory domain services and create a domain name. We're going to let this thing load up again. Should allow us to resize once it's fully loaded here. So we got that loaded. We're going to just go ahead and close this little menu here. Let's enlarge this window. And we're going to add roles and features. We're going to go ahead and hit next. Role-based is fine. Next. Okay. And then we're going to select our server, which is fine. It's the only one available. So we're going to hit next. And we're looking for Active Directory and domain services. So we're going to go ahead and just hit add features. Only want to select that one. Okay. So we're going to hit next, 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 and install. And so this is going to take a little while. So I'll go ahead and cut away and we'll meet back up once it's fully loaded. So it looks like it's fully loaded. So we're going to go ahead and hit close. Now we have to address this little flag here. So we have to do the host deployment configuration. So we're going to go ahead and hit this blue hyperlink here. We're going to add a new forest here. See if it'll let us. Select it. And for the domain name, we're going to do mydomain.com. Something easy that we can remember. Okay, so we're going to hit next. So we're going to create a password here. So go ahead and select that. Next. Next. Okay, that's fine. Okay, next. Next. And then we're going to go ahead and hit install. Let that thing go. Okay, so after installing, now it's rebooting one more time. So it rebooted here, so we're going to go ahead and sign in. Okay, now it actually shows my domain / administrator. So we're gonna go ahead and sign in using our account here. Now we're gonna create our own dedicated domain admin account. So we're gonna go ahead and select the Windows menu, and then we're gonna go to Administrative Tools, and we're gonna select Active Directory, Users, and Computers. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and we see our domain here that we created. We're gonna actually right click on it, and we're gonna go ahead and hit New, and we're gonna select Organizational Units. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and name this admins. And then that's fine. Hit OK. Okay, we're actually going to go ahead and right click on this, and we're going to select new, and we're going to select new user. We're going to put our information in here. Okay, and we're going to name it A- for admin, and we're just going to put this information here, and we're going to hit, and it should be right there. It says at myadmin.com. So we're going to hit next. We're going to create our password for this login here. Okay, and we're actually going to do something you probably wouldn't do in a real-world environment, but since this is a lab environment, we're going to go ahead and uncheck user must change password at next logon, and we're going to do password never expires. So we're going to go ahead and hit next and finish, and we're actually going to have to convert this into administrator. I know we called it A-, but it's not yet an administrator, so we have to go into properties here. We're going to let this load up, and we're going to do member of, and then we're going to do add, and we're going to type in domain admin, and we're going to check name, and then it comes up. So we're going to hit OK. We're going to hit apply, OK. And that should have worked. So let's go ahead and try it. We're going to go ahead and sign out, and we're going to try to sign in using our new credentials. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and sign in here, and we're actually going to use other user. And for the other user, we're going to use the new credentials that we just created, and we're going to try to sign in using these credentials. Let's see if it works. And it looks like it recognizes me. I'm in. So go ahead and let that load up. Okay, so next up, we're going to create our RAS or remote access server. This will allow our private Windows 10 clients to be on a private virtual network to still access the internet. So we're going to go ahead and select add rules and features here. We're going to go ahead and hit next, next. Okay, select that one next. And we're going to go ahead and select remote access. Okay, next. Hit next, next. We actually have to select these two. Add features and routing, okay? So we're gonna hit next. Leave this all as is, and we're gonna press install. And so this will take a little while, so I'll get back with you guys in just a second. So that finished installing. So next up, we're actually gonna go to tools, and we're gonna select routing and remote access. Let that load up here. We need this. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and right click on our DC local. We're gonna configure it. We're gonna hit next, and we're actually gonna select network address translation for NAT. Allow internal clients to connect to the internet using one public IP address. We're gonna hit next. We're gonna do, okay, so we're gonna try that again. Sometimes that doesn't work. So we're gonna go ahead and routing and remote access. Let's see if it'll show our network interface cards this time. So we're gonna select again, select NAT, oh, and there it is. So we're gonna select internet. Go ahead and select internet, and then we're gonna hit next, and we're gonna do finish. we're gonna go ahead and let this thing load. It'll probably take a while. I'll get back to you. Okay, so our domain controller is working as a little green arrow facing up. So our Windows 10 client should be able to access the internet using one IP address, assuming we set up the DHCP controller, which we will do next. So far, we've set up the RAS and the NAT. So we're gonna go ahead and set up the DHCP controller. So we're gonna go ahead and go to add roles and features. We're gonna press next, next. And now it actually shows dc.mydomain.com. We're going to hit next, and we're going to select DHCP server, add features. We're going to do next. I'm just going to go through the rest of this menu here, and we are going to install, and we'll go ahead and wait for that to load. Now that the DHCP is all installed, we're going to hit close. We're going to go to tools, and we are going to select DHCP. Where are you hiding? There you are. Okay. And so we're going to go ahead and click on this, and we're going to go ahead and right click on IPv4, and we're going to create a new scope. Okay, so this is going to be allowing our clients to be able to connect to this. So we're going to hit 172. We're going to name it our range, 172.16.0.100 through 200. Okay, then we're going to hit next. And so our start is going to be 172.16.0.100 to 172.16.0 to 200, and we're actually going to change this to 24 to allow our subnet mask to be 255.255.255.0. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and hit next, and so this is where we're going to actually enter the range again here. But you know what? Actually, we are not doing anything here. We're actually going to be skipping exclusions. We're not going to be excluding any IP ranges. And so this is going to be your least duration. This is more applicable for like your use case. Let's just say you have like a public Wi-Fi at a coffee shop, then you might want it to be shorter amount, maybe 8 hours that they could only have that IP address for. So we're just going to leave it for the standard amount, which says 8 days. So we're going to hit next. And do you want to configure these items now? So it says if we want to configure default gateways, DNS server, WINs. So we're going to go ahead and hit next. Okay, we're going to go ahead and set our default gateway, and we're going to set that to our IP address of our network interface card, or NIC. Okay, so we're going to set that to this here, our internal one. So we're going to hit add. We're going to hit next. We're going to leave the DNS server as is. Let's see. So for that, okay. So then we're going to go ahead and leave the parent domain as is. We're going to go ahead and hit next. We're not going to configure Win server. We won't need that. And yes, I want to activate the scope now. Okay, so we're going to hit next and finish. And so it's still showing red. So we're going to go ahead and right click on this. And we are going to, we're going to hit authorize on our dc.mydomain.com. And we are going to refresh. And now it's showing green. And if we go over to scope, then we'll be able to see our scope and our address leases. So it doesn't look like we have any right now. Yep. No, we don't have any clients connected to it yet. So we'll go ahead and pause right here. Okay, so next up, we're actually going to configure our domain controller to allow us to browse the internet from here locally. So we're going to configure local server. So normally you wouldn't do this in a production setting. But for the lab purposes, we're going to go ahead and turn off these recommended settings to allow us to browse the internet on this machine. So I've already gotten the link. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy that. We're going to go ahead and open IE Internet Explorer, or else it's going to give us a bunch of warnings, not allowing us. We're going to do Ask Me Later, and we're just going to go ahead and, oops, clear this up, hit enter. We're going to go ahead and save as. We're going to place this into the desktop. Okay, so that's all good. Let that download. Okay, we're going to close this. We're all done with this. We are going to extract here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take a look inside once this thing loads. Okay, so within this folder, we should have two files in here. So we have our PowerShell script, and we've got a list of names here that were randomly generated. At the top, we're going to go ahead and actually add our own name. Oops. Okay, we're going to file and save, and just leave everything else as is. Next up, we are going to open up PowerShell ICE once this computer decides to wake up. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and select this PowerShell ICE. We're going to right click on it and we're going to run as administrator. We're going to go ahead and hit yes. Okay. So next up, we are going to hit file and we're going to open the script within that folder that we just downloaded earlier. So we're going to go ahead and select desktop. And we are going to select this file here. Okay. So from the beginning, we can just go over some of the things on this item. So we're going to go ahead and set the password to password 1 for all users here. We're going to get the content from the names.txt file. Okay, and this is just converting the password to something that PowerShell can use. And this is going to allow us to create a new organizational unit within our Active Directory. Okay, and this loop here is going to go ahead and read from the names.txt file and appropriately place the first and last name to each thing. And it's going to create the username as first letter of first name and then the last name. And then it's going to spit out the information down here in black and cyan. And so this is just part of the loop here that is going to create everything for each user. But first, we actually need to configure PowerShell to be able to allow foreign scripts. So we are going to type down here, we're going to set policy. We're going to set execution policy to unrestricted. Okay. And so we're going to have to hit yes to all. Okay, so now we're going to have to go back to the directory of where this folder was sitting. So we're going to do CD for change directory. We're going to do capital C backslash. We're going to do users backslash that. Oh, nope. Doing desk. Oh, we're going to hit E. Oh, right here. A dot Ibana. Hit that. Okay, so now we hit desktop. And then we're going to select that. Okay, and then we're going to press enter. So we're going to do ls. And that should tell us that we have that. Oh, you know what? I think we need to go one deeper still. Yep, I think we do need to go one deeper. We're just going to copy this. Looks like for whatever reason, it's got a folder within a folder. So copy this guy here. backslash same item. There we go. Okay, so now if we hit ls, it should tell us that we have our names.txt. All right, and we should be ready to run the script. So we're gonna go ahead and press run, and it's gonna tell us, do you really wanna run it? Because we downloaded it from the internet. So we're gonna hit run once, that's fine. Take a good while, it's loading Active Directory. Once it's loaded, so now it's starting to create the users, and that's gonna go for a while. And if we go over to here, go to Server Manager, we should be able to go to Active Directory. Okay, and if we load this, we'll see a new folder here with underscore users, and that's where it's feeding all of our users into. So if we click on it, you can see they're starting to generate. So I'll come back to you once the script is finished running. Okay, so our script has finished running. So we're gonna go ahead and minimize that. And we're gonna go ahead and see if we can just refresh everything. Okay, so now we should have all of our users in. So if we actually click right here, we can do under find. Okay, and we should be able to find our account. So right click, properties, I believe this is gonna be our user account. Awesome. And we could even type in just our last name here. So here we've got two. This one right here should be our admin account. There it is. Awesome. Okay, and then if we just leave it blank, we should be able to see all of these items. So this is going to be all the different accounts that we created. But so we are all good to go. Everything is in order. We're going to close, minimize this, minimize that, close here. We're actually going to close this VM. Well, we're not going to close it. We're going to minimize it. And we're going to go back to VirtualBox, and we're going to go ahead and create our new client one. So we're going to call it client 1. Okay, and it's going to be Windows 10 64-bit. We're going to hit next. 2 gigs of RAM should be okay. We're going to create another recommended size 50. Should be fine with 2 virtual hard disk. Okay, let's do it. Hit next. This one we're going to go ahead and do dynamic. That should be fine. And we'll leave it at 50. That's okay. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and right click, go to settings for this guy. Let's configure some things here. So we are going to leave the memory as is for the processor. We'll give it another 2 CPUs here. Storage is fine. We're going to go over to the network, and we're actually going to change this to our internal network because we're going to connect to our other virtual machine. Okay, and that's all that we're going to configure with that one. So we're going to go ahead and start this virtual machine here. I'm going to go ahead and close Chrome here, free up some RAM. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and select our ISO. So let's go ahead and find it. Should be sitting on my desktop. I think that's where I left it. Oh, here it is. So we are going to do client. Okay. Choose start. And once again, it's going to want us to configure everything. So I will let this load, and I will keep you guys updated as necessary. So we're going to go ahead and finish the install process. We're going to hit install now. Going to create this as user. We're going to skip the password. Okay, so we got our computer pulled up here, our client device. Let's go ahead and launch command prompt here. So we're gonna do, let's take a look. Okay, so it looks like everything's working good. IP config. Awesome. So we've got our internal IP address, we got our subnet and our default gateway, which was the network interface card that we created earlier. So let's go to IP config. Very good. So we're gonna go back into our other virtual machine, our DNS or our DHCP, excuse me. Let's take a look here. A few things that we do need to work on this side first. So we're gonna close this. We're gonna go into our settings and we are going to go all the way down into, let's go about. Okay. Instead of renaming it down here, we're actually gonna go all the way down here and rename this PC Advanced Setup. And we're gonna go into change and we're gonna name it client one, and we're gonna choose our domain as mydomain.com. We're gonna hit OK. And we're going to try to use one of the login credentials that we used earlier on our PowerShell script. So I'm going to go ahead and just use the one that I know. That's mine. And it should be the default password that the PowerShell script created. Excuse me. Okay, and that worked. We're gonna hit yes, that's fine. We're gonna hit OK. You must restart. Okay, so we're gonna let it restart. Okay, we're gonna hit close, restart now. I'll get back to you guys once she's up and running. Okay, so now that it restarted, we have our original user account that we created with no password. But we're actually going to do other user, and we're going to try to sign in with one of the accounts that we created in our DHCP. And just like that, it's recognizing me. So we're going to go ahead and let that configure. It's going to want to configure the Windows desktop for the first time. So we'll go ahead and let it do its thing. While that's loading, we should be able to come into here. Let's take a look. We'll go into our server manager. We are going to select our DHCP. Might have already been open. That's our Active Directory. Well, let's take a look at this actually. So we're going to go ahead and hit refresh. And if we hit computers, we do have client one. And if we go to properties, it should tell us client1.mydomain.com. It's got our operating system. It got all that information. Member of is my domains, delegation, so on and so forth. So it did recognize this virtual machine here. So we can go ahead and minimize that. So we have our DHCP. We have our, we're going to go ahead and take a look at our scope here. Let's enlarge that. Okay, so we are going to look at our address leases. Let's see what we have. And there it is. So it assigned the first IP address 172.16.0100. And that's our device. So once this loads up, we're going to just go ahead and try to do some web browsing and see how that goes. Okay, so this one is loaded up. Let's just run this right here. Command prompt. And we're gonna run it. Who am I? All right, and it's got my domain Ibaina. All right, let's see. Let's take a look at Edge. And my internet access is mydomain.com. So let's see. Can we? Gonna want to probably configure Edge for the first time here. All right, very good. So that pretty much covers it. We were able to create a DHCP server, and we were able to resolve DNS, and we were able to create a scope of IP addresses, and we created address leases, and we were able to connect to it using another client device, Windows 10, and we can do different logins. So as far as I can tell, everything worked out well. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys learned a lot, and you have a good rest of your day.